Hey, everybody, welcome to Sex is Medicine. I am your host, Devi Ward Erickson, and I am delighted to be here with you for yet another wonderful episode of the ASECT award-winning live web series. Here you are listening to Sex is Medicine, and we're lucky enough that this show is also uploaded as a podcast to Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, all your major podcasting platforms, and of course, you can always stay connected with me and the team at authentictantra.com and sign up to have these episodes delivered hot and fresh to your inbox every Saturday morning. It's a pretty awesome thing to listen to as you're sipping your coffee and enjoying your leisurely Saturday or Sunday morning. My guest today is a sister. She is one of my graduates from the Institute of Authentic Tantra Education and a powerful sexual shaman, a powerful tantric dakini, and my Vajra sister. Her name is Sunshine Ryan, and you've heard her on this show before. Sunshine graced us with Birthing Bliss, a show about healing after miscarriage. And you specialize in birthing. Is that correct?
You.
Yeah. You've been a doula. Is that correct, for years and years?
So I've been thinking about this recently. So I've had 5 of my own children, and I was a doula, and I went and help assisted about 30 live births, and I caught maybe 4 children with my bare hands. And so that's impressive to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's impressive. You literally were like the first hands on this human body. Like,
I know, and
that's
it still
amazing.
blows my mind every time. Like that miracle of watching life like come out through the canal and then like come into this world and this existence is just so moving and so powerful. And I love that environment. Like for me, like I feel so empowered and so myself when I'm in the birthing room.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's the miracle of life.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's why I think sex is so important, because if we can start to heal sex, right, and heal ourselves through sex, then you can have these amazing births because you're not living in fear. And then what that does is that starts to move on to the child. And so the child is not born with fear. The child is born with just like this bravery, and like their life and their potential just expands tenfold.
Yeah. So a trauma-free birth.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about sexual embodiment and the embodiment of sex. And like a baby is definitely an embodiment of sex. It's like the ultimate embodiment of sex. But as we know, we're not always making babies when we have sex. So what does the embodiment of sex mean for you? That's a concept that you've developed yourself.
Yeah, and it's been really hard for me to explain over the years. And so this is why I keep diving into it, because I feel like there's an energy that moves through me, right? And so I think when we start to think about the embodiment of sex, there's kind of a confusion that happens. So embodiment to me means like embodying like a spirit, but within my body, right? Like interlacing spirituality with the body, right? And so we use that to like also also like interlace and weave human nature with the human form. So just this idea of like blending and uniting and making whole, right? And so I think the confusion comes when we start to talk about sex.
Yeah.
Because the word sex is so general, and then there's so many different avenues that you could go into, right? And so you could think of sex like, oh, embodiment of sex, and you can go straight to gender, right? And that is part of what I'm talking about, but that's not the whole thing. Like, yes, not simply just male and female, but also like the and not just focusing on like internal or external organs either. And also like my mind's going crazy, but also like when we just say sex, right, then we're also talking about the masculine and the feminine energies. So yes, all of those things, but also sex, like bringing bodies together, but also sex, like, solo play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then how do we connect all of these things together, like all of these aspects? And so I think that that's the embodiment.
Mhm.
Is when you
Mhm.
start to bring all of those things together into one and you start to breathe them and live them. And they
Mhm.
kind of start to just pulsate through your entire body and then outwardly into the world.
Inside, outside, same. And I'm wondering, what's coming up for me in terms of the embodiment of sex is also, and this being a pathway to wholeness, is the whole aspect of being non-binary, right? How it's like it's not this dualistic male or female or masculine feminine. It's living from a place of the integration and the union of all expressions of our humanity, and embodying that.
Right.
So yeah, I love the concept of the embodiment of sex being a pathway to wholeness and union.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of if you're male or female, like regardless, what I am inviting people to do is just to embody themselves
Yeah.
fully and completely, right? So if we start to consider like the embodiment of sex kind of like a self circuit or
Yeah.
like an internal wiring, and we can just plug ourselves into like our life force energy, like the electricity of life.
So is that how you're viewing sex in this concept? Is that sex is like the vital life force energy that we're able to tap into?
Oh, definitely. Like I feel like sexual energy is our life force energy. Like if I can create 5 children,
Hell
what
yeah.
what else can I create, right? Like and so I'm not having children anymore. So does that mean that that energy just goes away because I'm not having children? I say hell no. Like that's a natural energy flow.
Yeah.
Like that's what we were born out of. And
Hmm.
so it's very creative. Like it's a power source. It's part of our drive. It's part of our connection. Like it's part of a fundamental energy that just runs through our bodies.
Hmm. And what was I going to say about that? Oh yeah. So what I was going to say is that in the thing about having babies. So putting it in perspective, that from the Tibetan Tantra tradition, the most precious form that any spirit can inhabit is a human form.
Mm.
So the ability for us as human beings to use our sexual pleasure, or for our sexual pleasure to result in the most precious life form that exists in this universe, is so potent. And this concept of sexuality as life force energy, I know that's what many of the Eastern traditions taught, is that it is literally the fountain of youth, that is the source of vitality, and
I
that
would
it's part of
agree with
what makes us,
that.
yeah, and that it's
Yeah.
part of what makes us, like, it can be a longevity practice, like learning how to harness and cultivate and embody our
Right.
sexual energy can lead to, longevity and vitality and an awesome fucking life.
And I think it's how we plug into it, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, because our body has so many different personas.
Hmm.
And so I could use my body just to create children, like I was saying before. Or a man could just use his body to want to leave a legacy, right? And he's just having sex just to spread his seed all over the place.
Hosing it down, so plowing the fields.
Nothing wrong with that. But I want to use the energy to create this life that I am dreaming of, right? And so I think the body has so many different like it has a sexual body and it has a physical body and it has the energy body and even the intelligence and like the conscious. So I think, every day as we're walking around the world, we have to start to go, we meet different people, right? We meet different energies. We are picking up different signals. We are touching different materials. We're feeling emotions. We're feeling sensations. And so, what we're doing is we're combining all of these things together to form concepts of ourself and then outside and then also the outer world, right? So sometimes I like to think of the body as like a giant receptor, and we're like putting out our own signal, but we're also receiving corresponding signals.
Yeah, I love that. And with that concept, so we're transmitting, we're projecting,
Mhm.
and as we know, projection can lead to a lot of fucked up shit.
Damn.
But part of what we're projecting is based on what we're receiving, right? What we're perceiving from the environment. Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like the embodiment of sex is maybe a way of purifying both the way we receive information and both the way we transmit that information.
Yeah, and I think the energy can, it can, we can use it to reconstruct. Like if we could use pleasure, sexual pleasure, and mix it with the experience, I feel like we can start to rewrite our body chemistry.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And then there's a part of where like people are like highly sexual, and so this is the difference between like embodiment and just being horny, right?
Yeah, let's make that distinction because that's a big one. Embodiment of sex versus I just want to fuck, which is great.
Which is great. I'm not shaming anybody.
How about let's fuck with embodiment? But let's make that distinction first.
But I feel like people are like, oh, I'm horny all the time. It must mean I'm embodied. However, there can be like embodiment can get trapped behind our sexual drive.
Wow.
And so it could be like you could have your life force like sleeping, it could be dormant, or you could have a life force that is like dominating and like controlling you, and you're not actually present, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to have the balance between the two. And so what happens is like if you cut yourself off from your genitals, then it's like you're running on like maybe you're only running from headspace,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you're only running from like your belly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so like your internal circuit, it may be really strong still, but there's like a short
Mm-hmm.
in it, right? Like there may be a glitch every so often. You're like, I don't know what's missing. But on the other end of that, you could be just moving from your genitals, right?
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
so then you kind of get maybe like an overload, like the mind is only focused on getting off,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I can just come, then I can think. If
Mm-hmm.
I can just come, if I can just come, I just need to come, and there's like no other thoughts happening in the body. And so I feel like that's kind of where people kind of get lost a little bit. Well, I'm horny all the time, but are you using the energy to circulate and percolate through your body? Or are you just using it to get off?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So it's the integration of our sexuality and our sexual desire with with our heart, with our mind, with the totality of our humanness. And also I wonder about that orientation to just getting off, because I
Mhm.
think that's so conditioned into us from mainstream society and mainstream porn culture, which is all oriented towards the cum shot. It's all oriented towards that the orgasm. And orgasm is amazing, but that one little like flash in the pan kind of orgasm that's portrayed in media is just the tip of the iceberg, as we know.
Right.
And so if we're not embodied with our sexuality, then we don't get to experience anything more than just the tip of the iceberg.
Right. And you're missing out on a lot because really you're just falling into the sensation. The sensation is great, but you can still feel completely empty afterwards because there's no internal connection to the outwardly release, right? Like of the orgasm, right?
Yeah.
And
So having sex be nourishing.
right. There's no nourishment at that point.
Wow. So that's what the embodiment of sex means for you, is the realization of our sexual pleasure as a tool for wholeness, as a tool for union of body, heart, mind, spirit.
Right. Because I want to make choices from my whole body.
Oh, yeah. Say it again.
I want to make choices from my whole body. Like,
Yes.
like I want my mind to be in agreement with my pussy, right? Like, I don't want it to have a conflict. And I also want my heart to be in it, right? Like, I want the whole body to be there with me, to experience this, to let this in, and to free it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want all of that, to experience all of that. And that is the embodiment. You know, I want to be able to go out in the world and still feel orgasmic.
Yeah. You want to feel orgasm, not just when you're fucking.
No.
Yeah. So I want to drill down into that, because I remember, like, particularly when I first started training in Tantra, I heard a lot about like living an orgasmic life. And I always wondered, like, what the fuck does that actually mean? Like, and like my orgasms, like, I wouldn't get anything done. I don't know if I want to live an orgasmic. My understanding of it now is very different, but what does that mean to you? Like, what is your lived experience of taking your orgasm out of the bedroom?
Yeah. So it's not like you're going to walk around vibrating.
Oh no.
But then at the same time, you kind of are, right? Because you have this pulse, this excitement that is guiding you, right? And so it's our understanding, it's our awareness, it's our expression. Like, inside my body, I just feel good and alive, and my body is full of pleasure. So that is what signal I'm sending out in the
Yeah.
world,
Yep.
right? And that is the same signal that I want to receive back inside my body.
Wow. And we can't do that if we're not embodied.
Right.
If we can't feel our body.
Right.
Wow. I love that. So we didn't start out this way. Ultimately, yes, we did. Like, on an ultimate level, yes, we did. But on a relative, kind of like, as we go through life, we shit gets in the way. And so this embodiment is something that we've had to reclaim for ourselves. So what are some of the things that, in your view, that you've seen in yourself and your clients, what are some of the things that get in the way to us experiencing this wholeness that we all yearn for?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a couple things that can be happening, right? So you can feel like objectified in your body. And so you're coming from this place of like, you feel like you're a victim, or you feel like you're constantly being attacked, or you feel like you can't embrace your sexuality because someone's trying to take it from you, or even just your idea of being like an object.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sex object. Or how was the desire of sex coming into my life? I kind of feel like this is a big thing that kind of starts to steer people the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then just our experience and our emotion of just the sensations that we may have felt before during sex. And so if there's trauma in there, then maybe we're not going to be able to connect to our sex anymore, because maybe we feel shame about it, maybe we don't like it, maybe we had such a traumatic experience that we have cut our genitals off because we don't want to experience that again.
Yeah. Well, I know, and I know that that's a big issue with religious conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So, apologies, anyone out there who's deeply steeped in religious conditioning, no offense meant, but very often, many spiritual traditions, or I'll say religious traditions, do teach aversion to the genitals, do teach that there's a separation between God and sex. Right. So how do people rectify that division of like, well, God's over here and sex is over here, and they're two totally separate things. So that concept in and of itself creates a separation in the psyche that will prevent us from wanting to incorporate our genitals into our life.
Yeah, definitely. And that's unfortunate. I once had a client and he was 70, and I remember him just saying nobody ever said it was okay for him to masturbate. And he said I was the first one to give him permission. And he was just like in awe, like he had never heard that. And it was really interesting because you could tell that he had a lot of sexual dysfunction.
Yeah.
And the thoughts, like we were saying
Mm.
before, like it's just overactive. Like I just want to get
Mhm.
off, just want to get off. But if someone just told him it's okay to get yourself off, like he probably would have not have had so many life problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, like I very often compare this to the sexual disorder that this society creates in many of us who live in this society is very similar to me to an eating disorder. And again, no offense to people, I've made this comparison before, and not everyone likes it, but in the Eastern traditions, sex is considered a form of nourishment, right? And so to have like this weird relationship with sex that we have in North American culture is kind of insane when you just consider sex as a form of food. Essentially, it's a form of nourishment for the physical body and the energy body. And so, you know, if we're using that analogy of food, like if I feel guilty every time I eat, or you know, I'm taught from the time I'm a child, I'm not allowed to put food in my mouth, I'm not allowed to touch my mouth when I eat,
Right.
that's going to fuck me up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it is unfortunate that this is what is how our society is. Even my son came home recently and he's in health class and he said, "When do they teach us about sex?" And I said, "They probably won't." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And so a couple weeks went by and he's like, "Oh, well, they they taught us about sex." And I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, they showed two people dancing."
Well, I mean, that's an interesting that sometimes dancing can lead to sex, and sometimes sex is a dance. So
Yes, but I was like, "Okay." And I said, "Just take my class."
yeah, you have your mom.
Yeah, definitely. But I found that very interesting, just how the abstinence is just like, don't do it at all. Like instead of just educating people on how to just go, okay, we all have sex.
And have healthy and make healthy choices about it. But it's kind of like, you know, to tell teenagers don't do this.
Right.
What's the first thing they're going to fucking do then?
They gonna do it.
Don't do this. Okay, well that must be. It's kind of like my puppy, you know. It's like he picks something up and he watches to see, and if we're like put it down, he's like, oh no, you want it now. Now you're going to chase me.
Yeah, something disturbing that I heard the other day in my psychology class was that 1 in 5 teenagers have HIV.
1 in 5, like nationwide.
5, yeah, and I was like, that's insane. That number should not be that high. But I was just, if there's no education in the schools about safety, about communication, about respecting yourself, about value, about worth, about all of these things that we could be teaching our teenagers, and that number wouldn't be so high. I was very surprised by that.
Wow, I'm flabbergasted. 1 in 5 teenagers has HIV. They've got to live with that illness lifelong.
Yeah.
Wow, and all because people are like, no, don't talk about condoms because that'll make people use them. Yes, exactly. That'll encourage using condoms. Yay!
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So basically, our society fucks us up and gets in the way of our human right to embodiment and wholeness and integration. So once we've identified our blocks, how do we counteract that? What do we do? If I'm like, oh, I'm not, I'm disconnected, I'm disassociated, I'm not fully integrated, I'm not fully embodied. How do I go about creating and cultivating that experience of embodiment?
Yeah, first you have to bring it to awareness.
Yeah.
I think this is the hardest step,
Yeah.
that you have to just say, something doesn't feel right. And so when you can get to that place of awareness, then you can start looking for the information that you need.
Yeah.
And so a really great place to start is to come and see people like us. No.
Yes, this is what we do. We know where you're coming from because we've been there too. We know how to get to the other side. And yeah, we can show you the way. The way and the truth and the light.
Definitely, because that's what I did, right? I was like, oh, I'm having sex, I feel like shit, right? And I was like, I need help.
Yeah.
And then where do I find help? And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to start seeing if I can find help. And I found you, right? So I feel like people need to, one, get the awareness. Like, that's so important, because if you don't know that you have this issue, then you're not going to try to fix it.
Exactly. So acknowledging the pain and being honest. And again, we're taught in the society to override it, to fuck through it, which is one of my favorite sayings, and to ignore it, right? But just walk around feeling yucky. And and I knew, because I did the same thing. I knew that there was more, but I didn't intellectually know, but my body knew, my soul knew there has to be more to this than what I'm seeing, than the tip of the iceberg, but we just don't know where to find it.
Right, because I was so sexual, right? Yeah. Like I was having a good time. It was a good time of my life, right? But if I was having such a good time, why did I feel so terrible? Yeah. Right. Because I was totally missing something. There was no embodiment. I was all for the sensation. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love the sensation, but I needed more. Personally, I needed more. Mm-hmm. And so, I think finding what works for you, because one, I couldn't jump right into your program because it's a little expensive.
Right? Training professionals, right? So it's like not everyone wants to be a teacher. Some people want to just have a better life, right?
Yeah. And so I think for people to start out with, maybe at one class here or one class there, and see if that's really what they're needing. Mm-hmm. And trying these other routes first, like go see your therapist, like see if that helps, like all of these things. And then we offer a virtual retreat for people that's very inexpensive, and it's like a whole weekend, and that's called Gourmet Sex, Taste of Tantra. And that's a good way for people to just kind of go, oh, is this for me, before they really make like a larger investment.
Yeah. And so that's coming up soon, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. So Gourmet Sex, A Taste of Tantra. What is the URL for that?
sunshineryan.com/gourmet sex.
Okay, great. So if you guys want to check that out right now, but we will circle back to that. But one of the things that, when we talk about sexual exploration, there are so many different things out there. There's like kink and BDSM and the just major sex coaching and pole dancing and like all this. It's like a carnival, and that's amazing. So, but what makes Tantra different than just regular sex coaching? What is it about Tantra that's different than just like, oh, I'm gonna have some sex education?
Yeah, that's a great question. So talking about the embodiment piece, like Tantra is embodiment to me, plain and simple. Mm-hmm. And so what Tantra is going to do is it's going to start to circulate on a cellular level through your body. Mm-hmm. And it's going to start to break up internal like knots or little blockages within your energy body. Mm-hmm. And so a sex coach is not going to do that. They're going to coach you on sex. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the difference between people. Like, I can always teach people like how to do things. Like, oh, I can teach you how to give oral, or I can teach you how to ride. Like, that's more of a sex coach to me, but that's not what I'm teaching. Like, I am teaching you how to heal yourself holistically within your body, so that when you are having sex or even doing self-play, that you can open yourself in such a way that you are experiencing creation and life and that force running through your body.
Wow. Yeah. So it's more than just like how to give a good blowjob.
Yeah.
It's about how to make love to God.
Yeah. And I've done it. No.
Yes. you open to telling us about that your experience of having like this ecstatic union through sexual bliss?
Oh, I'm still, I still don't have the words, but I have been practicing for almost 3 years now, right? And so my first, and this was through yoni massage or vaginal massage. And my first massage was with you and another woman, and that was so incredible. And that really opened me up, but it also showed me how much work I needed to do. So I've been practicing, right? By doing my self-touch practices, by doing my orgasmic pleasure, by doing these sessions with myself and just opening myself up a little more and a little more at a time. And mind you, I had a hysterectomy during this time. And I have scar tissue, and I've been raped, and I've been attacked, and I have a lot of trauma in my cells, right? And so every time I did this practice, it would open more and open more and open more, and my heart opens more. Right? Because before there was no connection between my heart and my genitals, but now I'm a fully wired circuit. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just said beautiful.
Yeah. So recently I had a yoni massage, and my face is so excited. And I swear that I was orgasming with the energy of creation. Like it felt like I did not feel like I was in my body, and it was so expansive and so powerful. And I basically rewrote the entire structure of who I was. And I left that experience a whole different person. Like those orgasms are the strongest that I've ever had in my entire life. And I literally felt like I was talking to God, like I was in a relationship with God, that I myself became an embodiment of the heavens, of the universe. Like that's how amazing these orgasms were.
And that, my friends, is the embodiment of sex right there.
You see this?
Well, and your experience is a testament to what we teach in the Vajrayana tantric tradition, which is that every orgasm is a glimpse of enlightenment. Well, what is enlightenment other than experiencing your ultimate true nature? Yourself as one with the universe or God or whatever word you want to put there. And that sexual pleasure resulting in orgasm is one of the quickest, fastest, most accessible ways to experience our ultimate nature. So it sounds like you have this experience of literally resting in bliss consciousness. And it does what happens in the brain. Like you said, you rewrote your story. Absolutely. That enlightened consciousness, that's like, it's like pressing the reset button on your universal. Yeah.
It's beautiful to just have that experience. And I was completely free.
Yeah.
And so that was so important, because you can't have these experiences if you're not willing to open up to it. And so it took me this long of just doing training and doing the practices and loving myself to allow my body to go, okay, I want to feel complete freedom, because my whole thing in life is that I want to be free. And at that moment of those orgasms rolling through my body and making every circuit just open fully, that was freedom. Because at that time, the labels were not here anymore. There was no more sunshine. There was just pure energy pulsing through me.
Yeah. And I love the way you set this up, in that it was a process. It was a journey, right? So your initial introduction was like, holy shit, that's amazing. And wow, do I have a lot of work to do? But you didn't stop there.
Oh no.
You were inspired to move forward, and you continued cultivating your own sexuality, sexual experience, sexual joy, with love. Right? Not with like, fuck you, sunshine, you better get in shape, or like, oh, you're pussy's broken, like you need better orgasms. But from the standpoint of like loving kindness and compassion for yourself and kind of like coaxing your body and enhancing its capacity to experience this level of like literal cosmic bliss.
Right. And I think that's where the embodiment comes to play, right? Because if I just focused on the sex, I wouldn't have made it to that high of an aspect, that high level of orgasm, right? So I had to accept myself, all of myself, in order to allow that to blossom and to bloom and to have that experience.
Yeah. And that's just the beginning, right?
See, I'm choking. No. Hell yeah, that's just the beginning. Because now I can see that I've put the trauma behind me. Not that I have forgotten, but I've turned the nozzle way down, right? And it can stay there because it's part of my foundation. It's part of what makes me strong. It's part of what makes me who I am, right? So it's cool, it can stay there, but it's not making my decisions anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. I am here as a whole body person and I'm making decisions from there.
As an integrated person. You're no longer spinning the trauma-based self-distortions, right? And what I love, like I think in Western psychology, they call it post-traumatic growth, right? So for those of us who have experienced tremendous trauma and been able to heal it and resolve it, then we have this exponential growth. And so what I'm hearing you say is that your sexual integration and your sexual healing was your gateway or your pathway to experience, to healing and resolving and rewriting or rewiring the trauma, and then experiencing this exponential growth that was like, it's like the trauma was the compost that this beautiful tree of life, which is you, has grown from.
And you know, for females, we can have lots of orgasms. And and I'm new to the world of like squirting and gushing, right? And so feeling that feeling for the first time, I've had a few now, but but allowing that water to like gush out of my body and just so much of it and so hard and so strong, I felt like I was giving birth.
Dude, I said the same thing when I first started squirting. I hadn't had babies, right? And at the time, I wanted I was like, oh, I might still want children. But when I started squirting regularly, I was like, no, I'm giving birth. Like, I'm good. I don't need to have babies come out too. That water's enough.
It was a sensation. I remember like pushing down so hard so I could get all of the fluid out. And I think that has so much to do with it, right?
Yes.
Like, that clearing of our bodies, like we need to do that as women, and women can do that and they should do that. But you know, women are still told that they can't really do that, that it's still false. You know, there's so much.
That it's pee. So, and who wants to pee because it's gross? Yeah. So exactly, we're conditioned away from that, like something that's so healing.
Because it's scary to have women like us.
Yes, it is.
It's very scary. And people are like, oh, we're in the 21st century, whatever, it's 2021. And I'm like, yeah, cool, but why are you still in 1960?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that still think that way.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just encourage women to take back their bodies and start to embrace themselves with just love and compassion and understanding, and just start to let this experience evolve.
Yeah. So we touched upon gourmet sex as a way to begin exploring some tools, some methods, because that's the thing about Tantra in our tradition. They say, you know, Tantra, if you doesn't do it, it doesn't happen. So meaning that I don't say that, but that's what the lamas say. I don't talk like that, but that's what they say apparently. But tantra is something that we do, right? It's not. I mean, it's a philosophy, it's a concept, it's all these fucking things. But ultimately, it's yoga, right?
Yep.
It's something you have to do. If we want to experience something different, we have to do something different, not just think something different, but do something different. So that's what gourmet sex provides. It provides this opportunity for people to sample different orientations to exploration. So what are some of the menu offerings? You guys, we've got a whole crew of our practitioners. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love it because we're all different races, we're all different sexes. Like there's so many of us. So you get a little bit of everybody, right? Different styles. And I find that really important because when you're going to learn Tantra, you should connect with your teacher.
Yes.
Very important. And so we talk about like setting your table, like preparing the body. We talk about how it can become a healing method, right? We talk about how it can heal trauma. We even have racial healing that we're going to be discussing. We are going to be talking about, what the body wants and how to communicate that with each other. And then we also have fun classes like show me the D, like like
because hey, it's like that's part of the joy and celebration
of a good D. You know what I'm saying? Like
I love a good D. I do. I have one at home on tap.
Have like a solo play class because that's my thing. I do a lot of solo play. I'm a solo chick. And so I feel that's really important for people to be like, it's okay to be single. And you can still have tons of orgasms and be single.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I mean, if you don't, I mean, that's a best training ground is your own body. And like the more orgasms I cultivated when I was single, the more orgasms I cultivated for myself, the easier it was for me to come with partners.
Right. And the more I trust myself and the more it builds my confidence because when I'm playing with myself, I'm talking to myself really nicely, right?
You're like, ooh, sunshine. You're so beautiful. You touch me so nice.
But even more so, like you're so powerful. You're a badass chick. Like I'm just turning myself up.
Come for me, baby. Come for me.
Yeah. Like, that's so great. Like it's so good for me. Like you're so great. But think about that, all that love I'm building in my body, right? And then when I'm done, I'm like, oh, I'm so great. Like this is just
best lover ever.
yes, it's so serious. And then that overflows to my children.
Yeah.
And that overflows to the community. And that overflows to when I'm teaching, right? And so it's okay to like have this love for yourself. It's not selfish. It's how the more you can love yourself, the more you can love everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that concept of overflowing, right? We
Oh,
cultivate, we build, we fill our own cup so that that cup runneth over.
oh yeah.
We're just breaking down the Bible references today. I don't know where they're coming from. The way and the truth and the light and the cup runneth over.
Dropping in. But yes, so we offer this gourmet sex menu, and it's a really good place to start for people. It's totally confidential. You come, you have a good time, you explore, you take what you need, take what you don't need. If you want to explore further after that, then you have that option.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So, and that's really, so I love the like dip your toe in and get a taste.
Too.
And then, the understanding that true transformation, like you described so beautifully, takes time. You don't just have one yoni massage, one and done. It's something that we have to cultivate and work with. And I think that's a mistake or an error that some people have in terms of tantra and sex coaching and all of that. Is just like, oh, I learned this one thing and I take this one class and it's done. This is transformation. And it's a lifelong path. And so just like, if I go to the gym and I work out once, I'm not going to get awesome biceps. But if I'm going consistently and I'm consistent and regular with my practice, I'm going to see structural changes.
Oh, definitely. And you're going to have a fallback at some point. And so it's nice to keep having instruction and like keep learning and letting it grow, because what it's doing is it's increasing your awareness and it's increasing your embodiment. So you have to make shifts along the way.
Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes you're like, this is nuts. I'm so excited. And then you find something. You're like, oh shit, I need to fix that.
Yeah.
And that's part of the process, right?
Yeah.
Because now you've freed up enough space in your body to deal with it.
Oh, I love that. Freed up enough space in your body to deal with that. That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to be stagnant
Yeah.
within your own body, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like Tantra is just like this wonderful flow of just energy that constantly is like cleaning out,
Mhm.
cleaning the waters, cleaning the rivers, like just helping it so life can move through
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's some stuff that gets in the way, but it'll clean it out.
If you keep the water pressure on it,
Yeah.
blast it out of the channels.
Yeah, and then that's why it's also really good to have a coach and not just kind of follow it on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
because a coach can guide you through those channels, right?
Yeah.
Through the blocks, where like if you're just reading the book, yeah, the information's there, but you might need some help with the processing.
You need help with the embodiment of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the support that a trained guide can provide is we are the embodiments. We've done the thing. We've gone from, shut down, traumatized, whatever, to talking to God. So we've walked the path and gotten so it's literally, it's having a model, an embodiment, and that's literally the way we as human beings learn. Is we learn by watching, we learn by seeing other human beings do the thing, and then those mirror neurons pick it up, and then we imitate it, we mirror it, we reflect it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So if people do want to sign up for Gourmet Sex, they can come to my website, sunshineryan.com/gourmet sex.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so what is on the other side of, so we're going to dip our toes in, we're going to learn some tools and some methods. What are the things that you've seen in yourself and your students when people, commit to taking on this exploration and this cultivation of embodiment with their sexuality? What are the results that you've seen in people's lives?
Yeah, for me, I like to just bring up truth.
Yeah.
It really starts to show you who you are
Mm.
before somebody else labeled you a thing. And then you can really start to just live that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And your passions start to surface, and like your real essence starts to shine. And that is part of why we keep practicing, right? Because I just feel so embodied with who I am. And that has always been a really hard challenge for me, being biracial and never being accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I just believe that I'm supposed to be here, that I'm a good person, and that it's going to be okay. And I don't have to attach myself to the labels that somebody else gave me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we kind of can't win when it comes to the whole biracial thing. I grew up my whole life being told that I was black because I grew up around white people, and then black people are like, "No, you're not black," and I'm like, "Then what do I get to be?"
Yes. And so with this, I
Finally.
get to be me. Yeah, exactly. With Tantra, with the embodiment of my sexuality, I get to be 100% who I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Without the outside world defining and limiting our capacity for self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, beautiful. So The glory awaits us on the other side as we embark on this journey of sexual embodiment through the path of Tantra, sexual Tantra specifically. And are you going to have non-sexual Tantra that you guys are sharing?
That's an excellent question.
I'm not sure.
We do get into some like yoga practices and some movement practices. So yes, we do have some non-sexual practices that you can always put in your pocket.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. I love the having the palette of having sexual tantra and non-sexual tantra, because it makes it so versatile as a modality.
We even have like a size class, like a body positivity class.
Oh, awesome.
So we have just a little bit of everything. Like I said, it's a menu. We want you to taste and nibble.
Yeah. So Sunshine Ryan / or / backslash, one of those slashes.
Yeah, sunshineryan.com / gourmet sex.
Okay. And I'm guessing if you just go to sunshineryan.com, people will be able to navigate there.
Yeah.
Up right there. Sunshine Ryan Tantra.
Bam.
Go there now. Well, it is so awesome to spend this time with you, Sunshine. You are such a wealth of and a treasure of wisdom and knowledge, and such potent embodiment that you bring to these teachings and to the world. So thank you for joining us this evening. And I want to thank all of you guys. I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. It's always fun. You next show we'll have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
It's gonna get really naughty then. So y'all tune in for that. And make sure that you subscribe to Sex is Medicine on iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, YouTube, if you want to see our beautiful faces. If you're just listening to this audio, you definitely need to come see us on YouTube. And make sure I get prettied up for these shows all the time. See, so I actually put my makeup on. And make sure you stay connected with us at Authentic Tantra on Instagram, Twitter, all the platforms, as well as authentictantra.com. And we have a multitude of free ebooks available for you to learn more about Tibetan 5-element Tantra. Have a beautiful evening, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you, hearing you, playing with you next week.